Welcome to Hello Tomorrow. Hello Tomorrow is a podcast where we introduce remarkable individuals and their work to the world. A new episode will be available every fortnight on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other major platforms. Now, over to Subhash.
Hello, I am Subhash Achanta and welcome. As a part of our growth series, today we will be speaking with Vishal Gondal, the founder and CEO of GOQii. Hello, Vishal.
Hi Subhash, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Very good, yeah. I am missing coming to Hyderabad and eating the biryani.
Very much. You're more than welcome. And thank you for making time to join this podcast today uh, out of your busy schedule. Vishal, will quickly get into the core of the podcast. Uh, can you quickly run us through your education and work before Goki?
That's very easy. I'm a college dropout, so really didn't focus on studies. I studied in a school in a suburb of Mumbai called Chembur. I didn't really score very high in my 10th standard. The only reason I got admission in college is because of my sports quota. Yes, there is something called sports quota, which more and more people should encourage. So I got into a commerce college, uh, and on the sports side, I used to play volleyball, and I was a volleyball player both at state and national level. And that's really what got me into a commerce college. The reason I actually chose commerce is interesting because that requires the least amount of attendance
Huh,
and is the easiest.
yeah,
And I had already started my company when I was in school, and I really thought that hey, if I take science or engineering or anything else, that means you need to have more attendance. And given that, for me, I already had decided that I'm going to pursue my entrepreneurship journey. Commerce was a good choice because I really didn't have to study anything.
that's awesome, Vishal. Vishal, can you quickly run us through how you founded India Games, and could you talk us through the growth of India Games and the acquisition by Disney?
So I used to code computer games when I was in school. It was a fun hobby, which ended up becoming a business. In 1999, I was able to raise venture capital. Nobody had heard of that term, venture capital. And I started India Games with the whole idea that we are going to create games around the themes in India and Indian content. While at India Games, clearly the focus turned away from online games, which is what we started with, to mobile gaming, and mobile itself was at its infancy. You know, these are the early days of mobile phones when calls were 16 rupees a minute. So we were able to grow India Games, and at the peak, at this 2012, we were almost at a 65% market share of the Indian market, and that's when the company was acquired by Disney. But between 1999 and 2012, that 12-year journey of gaming was quite interesting. We saw various rounds of investments, both from strategic investors and financial investors. We even had the companies like Cisco, Adobe, Tom Online of China invest in India Games. And I think in my case, I possibly made every possible mistake under the sun, which you would say people that they should not do, right from wrong hiring to wrong firing to spending too much money on things which are unnecessary. Uh, and somehow, even though the dot com bubble busted, we were able to survive. And I think the only one reason was because we had a core proposition, that is, we knew how to make games. And we also had the vision that gaming is going to be very, very big form of entertainment. Imagine 2002 and 3 and 4 and 5, we used to say that gaming on mobile phones are going to be big, and people used to laugh at us. They used to say that hardly people use mobile phones for making calls, and you are saying that people are going to use phones to play games, and fast forward to today in 2020, where every person in their mobile with a mobile phone is playing a game. I think if you actually look at outside of social media, and in certain countries even bigger than social media is the gaming industry. And today if you look at an average youth, I think between social media and the gaming, that is 90% of their online time.
After India Games, how did the idea of GOQii come up, Vishal, and what are the various steps you had to take to bring it to its present size?
So once again, right, so in my case, I did not start a business or I did not develop a concept because I read some report or some investor told me that this is a field to invest in, or I did it because I was personally passionate about it. So of course gaming was my passion. But after I exited to Disney, I had a 5-year non-compete. So of course till 2018 I could not do gaming. So clearly gaming as a business was out. But at the same time, while in school, I was fit and athletic and a national level volleyball player. In the 12 years of running India Games, of course, I abused my schedule. I ate a lot of biryanis and pizzas and Pepsis, and I started looking like a volleyball myself. And that is the time I said, hey, let's invest in figuring out how to become healthy. I joined gyms, I went to diet programs, I bought all kinds of wearables to see what works and what can actually make a difference when it comes to improving my health. And what finally worked for me was when I started working with a health coach. It is when my local health coach used to send me messages on WhatsApp and tell me what to do, how to modify my diet, and he used to constantly motivate me to be active and do my runs, etc. To cut a long story short, from being lazy and a couch potato, I started running marathons. I have now done almost 14, 15 half marathons. I've done ultra marathons. And I was able to make a lifestyle change. And that's when the aha moment came to me that, hey, the whole health industry and fitness industry and wearables have got it wrong. They think that the problem people have is of data, or the problem people have is of access. But what I realized is that people don't have a problem of access or data when it comes to health. Everybody knows they should not be smoking or drinking, everybody knows they should be exercising, but people lack the motivation to do it. So, the idea of Goki was not to necessarily create another wearable company, but to create another platform which provides people motivation to reach their health goals. So the idea of Goki came about, and that's when in 2014 we launched the first Goki subscription plan, which came along with a wearable device, wherein the idea was that we are the first wearable device which comes paired with a health coach who will advise you and tell you what to do. And of course, you were amongst our early customers, so you exactly knew what Goki was building.
Very much, Vishal. So, Vishal, uh, while GOQii was something completely new back in 2014 when you launched it, did you do anything specific to find your first 100 customers?
I think I did not do anything specific to find my first 100 customers. What I really did was uh, figured out that how can these customers find us. So I am very influenced by a very, very fine gentleman. His name is Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly was the founding editor of Wired magazine. And he wrote this amazing article which talks about what he says 100,000 true fans. So his point was that whatever you do, whatever services you build, or whatever product you have in the world, if you can find 1,000 people, only 1,000, who truly believe in it and who are willing to pay for it, you have hit on a very, very important solution for these 1,000 people. So his point was, whenever people start thinking of products, they think, how can I get millions of people on it? But before you start to get millions of people, the idea is, how do I get 1,000 people on it? And the best part about this number 1,000 is, and of course, I mean, 1,000 is more indicative. It could be, if a product like Mercedes, it could be 100. So the idea is that if you can find 1,000 true fans for anything you do, these 1,000 true fans will then help you get to 10,000, and that 10,000 will help you get to a million. Because a true fan is somebody who is what is called a promoter. Promoter means that they will actively recommend you to everybody else. So that is the concept of a fan, because there are customers and then there are fans. A customer just consumes a product. But if I am a fan of a particular music group, or if I am a fan of a particular brand of shoes, I then make sure I talk about it and tell everybody about it. So that was the idea behind GOQii, that how do we get our 1,000 true fans? So what we actually did was, we launched a beta program, and we said that, hey, we are going to make only 1,000 GOQIs available. Please apply. That why should you be the one to get it? And for that, we almost got some 5,000 applicants. That why should they be the ones? And we actually chose 1,000 out of that 5,000 who we felt would have been the most suited to be our customers. And that's how the journey started. And then, of course, we identify a lot of our GOQii users based on their engagement. In fact, you yourself are what is called a GOQii Titan and a GOQii Champion, where you are what I truly called a GOQii super fan, not just a fan. So I think today's world, in the social media world, what works is not marketing or advertising, but what works is influence. And if you can truly influence somebody, that is when you have a very, very amazing product or a very, very amazing service proposition.
Oh yes, Vishal. So yeah, like you mentioned, you truly love the product, and I guess on multiple occasions on our conversations, as well as on the GOQii events, I did talk about my love for GOQii and the product, and the whole ecosystem that surrounds it. So for the listeners who do not know about the ecosystem, could you quickly let them know about what the ecosystem is and what all uh, comes as a part of the ecosystem?
Yeah, first of all, I want to tell the listeners that GOQii is certainly not for everybody. GOQii is not a product designed for anybody. We are only focused on people who want to be healthy. So there are two very important things, and that is what creates a difference. One is what is called the spark of wanting to change. And we have seen that we are in a category where, unless you want to be healthy, nothing can happen. But once you decide that, hey, I want to be healthy, then GOQii can provide you with coaching, wearables, everything else to make you healthy and make you change. And we clearly see that in the consumer behavior. And let me give you a very interesting example. There are users, and we have these live health classes with coaches, video classes at 7, 8 every time. There are some people who completely at the right point of time will come and log in for those classes. And then there are people who are invariably late and invariably don't turn up. And they keep saying, Are, why don't we have this class at 2 p.m.? Why don't we have it at 3 p.m.? Why don't we have it on a Saturday? Why don't we have it on a Sunday? So people who are motivated find a way, and people who are not motivated find an excuse. And I think consumers who are not wanting to change and be healthy certainly are not the good customers. So our focus is to go after customers who inherently want to change, which is why actually we do not have a free product as much, or we did not focus as much on freemium. Because the problem of a freemium offering is, that when consumers have not invested anything, the drop rates are very high versus when a consumer actually buys a service plan. So somebody who buys and actually puts money is more likely to use your product. And I know this is a classic problem a lot of customers and lots of services face, that hey, should I offer this for free, and when should I charge the customer? And I always recommend that you should always think about having some kind of an investment to be made by the customer. So it could be time, it could be money, it could be you know sending invites to 20 other friends. So if you can make the customer invest in something, that customer is more likely to use and consume your product versus giving this consumer something for free.
Yes, Vishal. So, yeah, also about the ecosystem, if we can quickly share a few points on what all comes as a part of the ecosystem
So
right now.
clearly, GOQii is not just a hardware device. We are a healthcare, preventive healthcare service. And as part of the service, you have health coaches, doctors. There's an app which connects you to all these people seamlessly. There is a GOQii Health Store where you are able to earn health cash and then buy products. And all of this, depending on your health condition, is connected with a device. So you can have a bevy of devices. We have devices which are just simple step tracking device. And then on the other end, we have devices like the Smart Vital, which comes with all kinds of vital parameters like blood pressure, oxygen, body temperature, and pulse rate. And in fact, some of these devices now also are approved as medical devices under the Indian regulations. So clearly, we are not just selling you a service, or to put it simply, we are not here to sell you a ball and a bat. We are a cricket academy which is going to teach you how to play cricket. And as part of that, of course, you will get a ball and a bat and a kit and everything else. But what is more important is, how do we measure success? So for us, success is when our consumers are able to meet their health goals. And that's what the GOQii ecosystem does.
And so do the coaches as well. The coaches are super duper motivated, and they do check on us as customers. I, as a user myself, keep getting reminded and keep getting asked on my health and my goals, and if I'm able to meet them or not. A great service for anyone who's really motivated to change themselves initially. Yeah. So, Vishal, can you share a few metrics with us of where GOQii is right now compared to when we launched it in 2014?
I mean, clearly, we have seen massive growth. We've had millions of customers. We are, I mean, compared to everybody in the market, because of our unique business proposition, we are doing really well. And of course, compared to what happened with COVID, we have seen a massive surge. In fact, this year we are recording almost a 200+% growth in revenues, and that's all attributed to more people wanting to get fit and healthy. As you know, one of the key words for everybody during this pandemic has been immunity, and everybody is really interested in knowing how can they improve their immunity, how can they make sure their parameters are tested. So GOQii is really been active on that. But on a personal note, if you ask me what is our goal, where do we really want to go? And so I would say that our goal is to make 130 crore Indians healthy, and which is why we've also partnered with Prime Minister Modi's Fit India movement. And as part of Fit India, our goal is to not only help people in cities, but even go to smaller cities, towns, and even villages. Because for a country like India, it is only going to work if people are going to focus on prevention. Given that India is already the disease capital of the world, with diabetes, cholesterol, hypertension, heart disease on the rise, it is important that everybody takes care of their health. Otherwise, we will, you saw what is happening in countries like Italy and Spain with high old population. The reason these countries have seen high death rates is because the average life expectancy in these countries are at 84 and 87. India's biggest problem, and one of the reasons we are seeing low death rate in India, is not because the virus is any different. It's because we have a much lower life expectancy. The average life expectancy in India is only 66, 67. So already the percentage of people in their 80s and over the age of 67 is much lower in this country, which is why we've been lucky. But 20 years later or 30 years later, when the bulk of our population, which is currently at an average age of 24, 27, are going to start becoming in their 30s and 40s, you can imagine what kind of health emergency we will be in. And that is why it is really important that people should not only take their health, but the health of their family members and their loved ones very, very, that should be the topmost priority.
So, Vishal, what are the few rules or rather mantras that you personally follow, as well as also kind of put them to use at Goki or other places that you advise? What are these few rules or mantras, if you can share them with us?
So I would say that, among the few mantras which I personally follow, and I also make sure that we at Goki follow it, is that you have to practice what you preach. In this world, you cannot give people advice without faking it yourself. I mean, you cannot tell everybody that, hey, do workout, eat healthy, get 8 hours or 7 hours of sleep when you are yourself not doing it. And in today's world, people can see the bullshit very easily, so you cannot fake it. In today's world, it was much easier to fake, but in the social media world, because everybody is watching your social media accounts, so while I may be telling everybody that, hey, you should eat healthy, and I'm posting pictures of me eating fried food and chips the whole day, people can easily see through it. So practicing what you preach is extremely important. The second rule, which I also like everybody to take, is to take risks. And the example is, and especially in my case personally, I always like to do things when people tell me I can't do it. I think that's the starting point for me. So I think taking up challenges is something which is very important. But there is a difference between risk and calculated risk. So I think a lot of times, and this especially happens when people go through structured education like MBA programs or who work for larger companies, there they calculate everything. So when you take a calculated risk, it is not a risk. What is really happening is that you've been given a set of rules, and in your mind you are breaking or modifying those rules, and which is why you think it's risky, which is why traditional companies always find it difficult to disrupt and innovate, because they, in their mind, they already are deviating from a system they have already been set into. Because I always like to come into any situation from a outsider's mindset, I'm less likely to think that this is the box. So I think to think out of the box, fundamentally you need to be outside the box. You cannot be inside a box and thinking outside that box. So I think that is fundamentally one value which I tell people. And it's very easy to go out of, to take a risk. And the best example I give people is that do something which is not part of your nature. For example, if you are typically good in maths and you are accountant or you are a scientist, I would tell you, hey, go and start painting, take a course on photography. Because if that is what, if people think that, hey, you are not creative, who told you that you are not creative? Just because some people tell you you're not creative doesn't make that happen. And similarly, if creative people are told that they can't do legal documents or they can't understand what is finance and accounts, I challenge them to do that. So I think that itself is a good way to go outside your comfort zone. And finally, I think it's also about having a growth mindset. I think a lot of people who have growth mindset can always think of every failure as a learning and improving yourself. For example, as a toddler, before you can learn to walk or stand, you fall a million times, and only then you are able to do something as basic as standing up and walking. But when it comes to our professional lives and in our careers, failure is really, really frowned upon. And because people don't look at failure as a way to learn, and they look at a failure as a reason to stop doing something or getting embarrassed from doing something, that really stops their personal growth. So having a growth mindset is very important. So I would say these are three important things which if everybody can focus on, which is having a growth mindset, practicing what you preach, and always taking risks. That itself can take you a long way.
So, because you'd already mentioned failures in the previous part, so could you probably share if there are any failures and any learnings that you have got from them, be it in India Games or in GOQii, as well as are there any crucial points in your life where you had to take a few decisions and stuff that made you what you are right now and made GOQii and India Games happen.
I mean, that see, the point is, and this is what I tell people, that entrepreneurship is failing every day. 365 days of a year, you fail for that one day you may succeed. So there is not one instance of failure, you know. We have a million instances of failure because it is these failures which lead to success. Just to give you an example, when we launched the first, I told you about GOQii's first 1,000 user program, which we launched.
Yeah.
You won't believe 90% of the devices we shipped to those users failed. 90%. Because that was the first time ever we had created a device. And that's when we realized that we had made some fundamental design mistakes, which is why the devices, for example, there was something inside which, when you walk a little faster, those devices were getting loosened up, for example. So that entire thing was a failure, but we converted that failure into an opportunity to tell people that, hey, you have signed up for being a beta tester actually. So great, congratulations, you found a big bug, and here we are going to send you one new device. So even though that was a complete disaster, we were able to look at the positive side of it. Similarly, when we had created the device, we had shipped the device with a external charger. All GOQii, the first version of a device came with an external charger, and what we found was everybody complained because they lost the charger, they used to not carry it. So we did a massive innovation. We actually integrated a USB charger into the device. And the GOQii 2, I don't know if you remember that, for the GOQii 2 device which came,
Yeah.
which was an integrated USB charger.
Yeah.
And you know what our biggest problem happened when we launched that? We had almost 5,000 returns from Amazon. And the reason is people opened the box and they could not find the charger. And everybody complained and gave us 1 star rating saying that you have fooled us and not shipped a charger of the device. How the hell do we charge it? So while we did an innovation by eliminating the need of a charger and giving you a USB, consumer was not ready for it. Consumer always used to think that there should be a charger. So we then created videos and we put instruction manuals on how to charge, and this is the charger. So here I'm giving an example of how we actually did a design innovation which completely backfired because consumers expected to actually have a charger. We eliminated the charger. So I mean, that's what I said. There is not one but millions of stories on what we did wrong and how we failed. But like I said, we have not taken a failure as a failure. We have taken as a failure as a lesson to learn. And I don't know of people who do workouts or who do exercise. There is this very interesting concept of muscle failure.
Yeah.
So if you're building muscle, the only way the muscle grows is when you bring it to failure. I know it's a very counterintuitive concept for a lot of people, but that's how even your body operates. When you push it to a failure is when you grow. Similarly, I think for a startup or a product, unless you fail or unless you hit the boundaries, of the whatever limits you have set, you will never be able to grow.
Yes, Vishal. Getting out of the comfort zone is the best way to realize oneself. So, Vishal, you also have a few startup investments made into a few startups across the country. So, what are the few suggestions or advices you give them?
So I would say that, today the problem is, or the opportunity is, that there are thousands and thousands of startups coming up. And the expectation of investors is up because they are seeing very, very polished products when consumers come to them. So gone are the days where you could write an email and say, hey, here is my big idea, please fund me. So I think what has now happened is that people have to realize that in today's world you don't even need a MVP. You need to go beyond an MVP if you want to go and approach a professional investor, because the professional investor or a angel investor or a VC fund are seeing products which are already so matured who are coming to them for funding. So you are competing with not one but 100 different products from different industries. 5-10 years back it was a different scene when the funding scene was not that great. So today if you have a decent idea, you have to figure out a way to fund it yourself or your friends or family, or there are some incubators or accelerators. So those are the places to go to get your product to what is called an MVP stage, and then even beyond that. Secondly, please remember that consumers today are very, very smart. Consumer today is tasting and using the best products in the world. They're using Amazon, they're using Uber, they're using TikTok at whatever point they were. Now they are using Instagram, they are using Snapchat. So their experience of using interfaces is so good that even an auto rickshaw driver is now using these best apps. So unless your apps and your services are not world class, consumers are not going to adopt it. So I think the quality expectation of consumers have really gone very high. So people need to, just because you are a startup or you are from India or you are this, that cannot be a reason to have poor user interface or slower speeds or any of that.
So, Vishal, as a last question, uh, where is GOQii going forward? Which other countries is it growing to, and what all can be expected from GOQii going forward?
So Goku's vision is to be the world's biggest consumer healthcare company, and that too by giving, not giving a single medicine to these people. It's not by giving medicine but by giving motivation. And the reason we believe that is very, very possible is because the current traditional healthcare system is not a healthcare system, it's a sick care system. It is siloed, it is fragmented, and it is in conflict with the interest of the consumers. The traditional healthcare system profits from selling you medicine, selling you therapies, selling you surgeries you may or may not need, and they have no incentive in making you fit and healthy. Goki has created the perfect ecosystem for encouraging people to be responsible for their own health and become healthier. And we believe that is the future of health. And that combined with wearables, with AI, with new technology, and now with, because of COVID, people's own motivation to become healthier, we believe that we will be able to create that unique system of creating an environment where people profit from being healthy. They profit from living a healthier life. They are the same customers who will then benefit by getting cheaper products. They will be benefiting by getting cheaper insurance rates. They'll be getting benefited by getting great deals and products because they are living a healthy lifestyle. So we want to create an ecosystem which encourages and empowers people to be healthy and fit.
Thank you for joining us today, Vishal. I owe you a Hyderabadi biryani next time. We've got some great insights from Vishal, and I hope you learned something new today. Have a great week ahead and wait for my next podcast with another remarkable guest.
Please do subscribe and share our podcast and do join us on this journey of learning.